It's time for another episode of my winter series, and this week I'm making crispy chicken thighs with corn puree and a burnt spring onion chimichurri. Spring onions are in season. Now, I'll be completely honest, I'm not a massive fan of them raw. I find they can be a bit too pungent and dominate a dish, but I mean, to each their own. I do, however, think they're completely overlooked as a vegetable, and I love to eat them cooked. They're basically a cross between a cute mini leek and an onion, with that blend of sweetness and a stronger onion flavor, and they're a bit more green and full of vitamins and minerals. My favorite way to eat them is by first completely burning them all over on a gas hob, but if you don't have access to an open flame, just coat them with some oil and roast them in the oven at 200 degrees until they're also brown all over. And then you just need to leave them to cool down and peel off that burnt layer. And you'll be left with a soft center which has developed a smoky taste, concentrated in flavor and sweetness, and softened to a very satisfying jammy texture with a little bit of bite to it. It's a great salad dish as is, but I'm going to chop them up roughly into small chunks and add them to a chimichurri for added smokiness, depth and layers of flavor and texture. So next up, I just need to roughly chop up the parsley in the same way, and then I'm going to pluck a few sprigs of rosemary and again do the same, roughly chopping them back and forth motion with a knife until they're as small as possible. And now that's all the prep done for the chimichurri. All that's left to do is to pop those herbs and the spring onion into a bowl and then stir in the juice of a lime, some apple cider vinegar, some extra virgin olive oil, a bit of chili flakes to taste. You can make it spicier if you prefer, and then some salt and pepper, and just give it a stir, give it a taste, see if you think it needs any more lime, any more heat, any more salt, and that's it. The perfect condiment for basically anything that's quite fatty and needs a little bit of lifting and cutting through. Now I'm going to show you a recipe for a way I like to serve it, which is a bit different to the classic steak and chimichurri, and that's with really nice crispy chicken thighs and some corn puree or corn mash. Corn puree is a great way to use frozen veg, so the corn was picked at the peak of its season and frozen straight away, so it's maxed out on its nutrient level, and this is a really nice accompaniment. If you like polenta, you'll love this. If you don't like polenta, then you might like this, depending on why you don't like polenta, because it has a very similar flavor, but it's a much smoother, creamier texture. So if you don't like the graininess of polenta, then you'll love this. And it's so easy to make. You just boil the frozen corn in some milk with a bit of salt and smoked paprika, leave it to simmer for about 15 minutes, and then you blend until it's as smooth as you want it, and that's literally it. So simple. Now for the more technical part of this recipe, I'm going to show you how to debone chicken thighs, because the easiest way to get lovely crispy chicken that's still juicy and moist in the middle is to cook it with the skin on. But for some reason it's really hard to find in supermarkets chicken thighs that have the skin on but the bone removed. It's either all or nothing. So what you want to do is pat it dry, and that's going to help as well get it really nice and crispy later on. And then with a sharp knife, you're going to start first by revealing the bone, just by cutting around it slowly so that you can see it. And once you've done that, you're going to take the point of your knife and go under the bone, and with the blade facing away from you, that's really important, always keep it away from you for safety. You're going to cut along it so that you can then lift up the bone away from the flesh. And once you've done that, it's just a matter of scraping the flesh down to the bottom so that it sticks to the thigh and you are getting just the bone off. So do that at a bit of an angle just to maintain the sharpness of your blade, and just keep scraping down to the bottom until you get to the joint. Now at this point I can see the joint, and what I'm doing here is actually wrong. So just to show you, if you just cut it here at the joint, then that's fine, you remove the bone, but you're left with a little bit of cartilage which is not going to be edible, it's going to be tough, which you now need to remove. So then to remove that cartilage, that's now quite awkward. I've got to pinch it and then try and be safe with my knife and just slice it off, which is fine, and you can do that and just be careful. And there you will have a lovely chicken thigh with the skin still on, ready to go. But a better way of doing it would be that when you are scraping down the bone as so, and you've gotten to your joint, instead of slicing it at the joint here, what I'm going to do is just flip the thigh around so it's skin side up, and then that's where I'm going to cut it, because then I can easily include the cartilage into that. So now all that's left to do is to heavily salt the skin so we can get nice and crispy. Start off on a cold pan and then leave them on a low heat for 20 minutes so that all the fat renders off, and then you're left with a thin skin which can go really nice and crispy. Cook it then on a high heat for 5 minutes on the skin side and then 5 minutes on the other side. And then to check that it's done, you just insert the blade to the center, and then you're going to place it on your wrist, and it should be burning hot. You shouldn't be able to leave the blade on your wrist. And that's how you know it's done. And look at that, we've got some lovely crispy skin and a really succulent juicy chicken. That is just my favorite way of eating it, and quite simple. Now, if you can't be bothered to debone the chicken, then all you've got to do is just roast them with the bone in a 200-degree oven for 30 to 40 minutes, and just check in the same way with the blade of the knife that it's cooked through. And that's it. Now all that's left to do is to serve up with a lovely spoonful of that corn puree, our nice crispy chicken thighs. I've added a bit of dressed green salad as well on the side, and then a couple spoonfuls of that burnt spring onion chimichurri to finish it off. Now, as always, the full written down method for this recipe is also on my website, which is linked in the description, so feel free to check that out. And if you enjoyed this, then please make sure to like and subscribe for more every week, and let me know in the comments if you make this.